Thank you very much for coming along today. We're about to start a presentation, Optimise Business in 0 clicks, put advanced analytics to work. And this is MicroStrategy in conjunction with DataRobot. Please make sure that your speakers are unmuted so that you hear what we're saying. There's going to be a Q&A session at the end, so we can see questions as you typed, and we'll try and address as many as we can. There'll be a survey at the end, and then join the intelligence conversation at MicroStrategy and share your thoughts with hashtag Analytics2020. Tell you what, Kane, we didn't put down a hashtag for DataRobot. Is there anything
there is?
You know
there's plenty of hashtag DataRobot. So yeah, feel free to join us on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and all social channels.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, we've almost introduced ourselves, so let's do that officially. I'm Nick Barth. I'm a senior sales engineer at MicroStrategy. I'll talk a little bit about MicroStrategy in a moment, but I'm going to ask Kane to introduce himself.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Hi, everybody. And again, thank you very much for joining us today. So as it says there, my name is Kane Putman, and I'm a customer-facing data scientist at DataRobot. I've been here for about a year now, but have about 10 plus years working in machine learning, data science, and AI.
Great. And I'm a senior sales engineer at MicroStrategy. I've been at MicroStrategy for around 12 years now, and I've been in business intelligence for, 2 or 3 decades longer than that. Really, the most important thing to point out at this stage is kind of why we're doing this. And we're doing this because both DataRobot and MicroStrategy have a similar approach to enterprise software. MicroStrategy has been around for 30 years. We are the largest independent business intelligence platform on the planet. That is NASDAQ quoted, as I said, independent business intelligence platform. And the emphasis there is on the platform as opposed to desktop productivity tool. So MicroStrategy tends to be used at scale by retailers, financial houses, telcos, utilities, government agencies, and so on. And it allows a great deal of agility and with less administrative heft than many other mere visualization tools. Kane.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. So for those of you that have not heard of DataRobot, let me just take a couple of minutes just to explain what DataRobot is. So for me, the best way to describe DataRobot is by describing really the natural evolution of machine learning technologies or data science technologies. So until recently, there's really been 2 main families of machine learning technologies. You've got code-based tools like Domino or Databricks, Jupyter, RStudio, and so on. And you also have things like drag and drop interfaces, so technologies like SAS or RapidMiner, Statistica, and so on. Now, these are fantastic tools. I've used them myself in previous years, but there's a number of challenges that we find with these technologies. So when you think about time to value, building everything from scratch really isn't that optimal. Accuracy, you find that most data scientists will have a favorite algorithm, and therefore maybe they're missing a trick by not exploring other approaches. And last but not least, it requires often a data science skill set, someone that has that maths and statistics as well as that programming ability. And you usually only have a few folks like that in your business. And a widely accepted definition of a data scientist is exactly that, right? Is someone who has programming ability, someone that has maths and statistics ability, but someone that also has that domain knowledge. And that's what we would call a unicorn data scientist. So 8 years ago, DataRobot was the pioneer that first said, hang on, can't we automate a lot of this process? And this is what gave birth to a new family of what we call automated machine learning technologies. So the benefits of this are really twofold. Firstly, we can make your data scientists more productive. So as opposed to them deploying 1 or 2 models into the business a year, they can build tens, if not hundreds of models a year. And they're focusing, therefore, more on what business value they can drive from machine learning and less on which algorithm is best or which hyperparameter is best. And secondly, most importantly, perhaps, is about democratization of machine learning throughout your business. So if you consider the question that you can automate the maths and statistics, you can automate the programming, that means that the people in your business who are data astute and business savvy, those are the people that really will be adding value with a tool like DataRobot. And I mean, as a business, we've come on leaps and bounds. We're 8 years into our journey. We're over 1,000 people globally. We're just shy of £500 million in dollars, I should say, in capital venture funding. Our customer partnerships have grown massively. Our technology integrations and partnerships, hence why we're here today, has grown massively. And hopefully you'll see a chance to see some of this technology a little bit later on today. Cool. Over to you, Nick.
Great. Thank you, Kane. So first of all, I'm going to launch into or discuss an issue which is very pressing for everybody right now. I think we think that we know that businesses in the UK, across Europe, around the world, are preparing for an ease in lockdown. And the scenario we're going to talk about today covers a lot of that, because in a lot of cases, businesses that haven't been in business for weeks or months are about to go back onto the high street. What will be their reaction? What about price? If you price high as a consumer business in order to protect margins, or do you price low in order to beat competition? And the pressure is on, as many businesses we work with grocery chains, we work with CPG companies and so on. They've seen their costs rise in order to deal with COVID-19. So more than ever before, businesses need to optimize what they do. They need to convert browsers into buyers. So we've come up with these slogans. First slogan is compute the price. By automatically assessing people's responses to prices in the past, we're going to see that DataRobot advises the best price to charge in the future, a price which will maintain margin while not hurting demand. So all prices are elastic. Some prices are more elastic than others. And DataRobot shows optimal prices without time-consuming and costly code. Next is change that price now. So the question is, how do you put optimal prices in the eye line of the people who manage those prices? Now, we're talking about prices today, but it could be any piece of information that you want to put in the eye line of a responsible person. And Kane talked about democratization of data. That is very much MicroStrategy's philosophy as well. We believe in getting information out to anybody who needs it, not just analysts, not just people who understand and can work with dashboards. So to be agile, you need to put not just the optimal price in this case, but also the next best action in front of the people who are going to make that change. And what if you could do it in 0 clicks? So finally, change that price now and get your price right. Because all of this happens in real time. You can optimize your prices as often as you need to. Now, as I said, we're going to be talking about one scenario. We believe that MicroStrategy and DataRobot are very much coming from the same place in terms of enterprise software. We both believe that analytics can be delivered into the hands of every colleague in your enterprise because DataRobot and MicroStrategy deliver value at scale throughout platforms rather than just desktop productivity tools. And we've chosen one scenario to illustrate that value. Now, it's a retail scenario. It's to do with price optimization. But if you're not a retailer, please stay on the webinar and take a look at what we're going to show you. Because I think what we're showing you here are building blocks that can be used to get information out to your customers. Out to your business managers. Okay, so let's go into that scenario now. Let's meet Mary. Mary is head of digital merchandising for a well-known grocery chain. Her biggest challenge is making sure that the proposition meets her customers' needs. She's in charge of that digital proposition, whilst maintaining a healthy margin in a very competitive market. And that job is made very much harder through COVID-19. The temptation that Mary has is to trust instinct, to trust her gut. And what we'd like to show you throughout this presentation is that there is a better way of making decisions than just trusting an instinct. Mary's team spend their working day planning how they can improve their customers' digital experience, the website, and so on. They come up with themes, promotions, pricing, where to place products on the website, halo products, all the drivers that make their grocery site more sticky and drive more sales. And obviously that's been a huge draw and a huge pressure under these current circumstances. Now, next week is going to see the lifting of some restrictions. It's also going to see some good weather. So Mary's team are looking at pricing strategies for products likely to prove popular and picnics and barbecues, socially distanced groupings. Because some of these items are perishable, it's important to set the best prices without hurting demand. It's very much a tightrope act. Mary has a lot of products to make changes to, and right now she may want to change prices or at least monitor those optimal prices every day. So it's a big task. So price optimization could be the key to getting the customer offer right. But it's not necessarily it's not necessary to mark down all products in order to maintain demand. And in fact, that will hurt margins and overall revenue. So Mary needs to understand the price elasticity of different items as conditions change. And that's a big problem. Kane.
Thanks, Nick. So, I mean, if you look at that plot on the previous slide, it shows a really nice visualization of what you might see in a blog about price elasticity or perhaps even an academic paper. It's another thing altogether being able to actually build those curves on your own data to understand that relationship between price and demand at a SKU level. And fortunately, Mary works with a team of data scientists, including Tom. Let me introduce Tom here. So Tom's already making great use of DataRobot. He's building models from every part of the business, from marketing and customer intelligence to demand planning and supply chain. And this allows them to really deliver machine learning at scale, running lots of different models and scenarios to cover that dynamic nature that a retailer now is working inside. And what we're going to do today is we're going to see how DataRobot's going to train a whole bunch of machine learning approaches to determine what is the best approach. And then what we're going to do is isolate the relationship between the price and demand within that model. So what you can see on this screenshot here is where we have trained a whole bunch of different open source based approaches, and we're going to compete them against one another. And this is really important. If you think about that automation that I talked about earlier, we don't want to rely on one or two algorithms that might usually perform well. No, what DataRobot's going to do is throw a whole bunch of combinations of things at your data set, and it's going to tell you which is the best approach for your particular data set. Now, when I talk about these modeling approaches, it's what DataRobot call a blueprint. And a blueprint is effectively a combination of a whole bunch of pre-processing steps to try and clean the data and massage the data so that it's fit for purpose for modeling, but also coupled with that modeling algorithm. So there's lots of different combinations of blueprints that we can potentially execute against a unique data set. So we go on to the next slide. This is probably what we're going to consider the most important part of this project. So what we need to yield from our particular model is an understanding of that relationship between price and demand. And until recently, a lot of people have considered machine learning technologies as black box. That's quite often a term that gets used. But in fact, DataRobot shows you absolutely everything that you would want to look at as part of that modeling process. Everything from what's going on behind the scenes, being able to understand what pre-processing steps have happened, what modeling algorithm was selected, right through to understanding which features have been selected as driving that particular thing that you're trying to predict. Because if you recall that DataRobot is a machine learning technology. Machine learning is a two-stage process. What we're going to do initially is we're going to take some historic data where we've observed sales at different price points, and we're going to then determine that relationship historically. What we're then going to do is the second part, which is we're going to simulate what the relationship would be like for different price points into the future. So if we go on to the next slide, this is where we're going to be able to, at a SKU level, use that intelligence about the price elasticity curve that you saw on the previous slide. And we're then going to simulate what that predicted demand would be at those different price levels. So on this plot here, if we go from left to right on the x-axis, we're saying the product goes from very cheap to very expensive. And what we can see is the blue line is going down, as you might expect. So this is representing your predicted demand going down as you increase your price. But interestingly, when you multiply your demand by your price point that you've set to give you total revenue, and that's what we saw on the orange line, we can see that there's an optimum price point there, which generates the maximum amount of revenue for that particular SKU. So what we're going to do behind the scenes is to try and automate this process as simply as possible. We're going to just run through a simple script that will connect to MicroStrategy, go and get some data. We're going to go and train some models in DataRobot, and then we're going to generate those predictions to understand at a SKU level what the optimal price will be. And then what Nick's going to do later on is surface that intelligence back to Mary. So to escape the perils of technology, what we've done is we've pre-recorded a couple of videos. So I'm just going to show you that video now.
Welcome to DataRobot. This is our landing page where we're asked to connect to different data sources. What we're going to use today is our local file connector. Our local file connector is going to allow us to read in data directly from MicroStrategy, and one for scoring. The training data set is what I'm going to build my machine learning models upon. When I look at that, you can see that I've got a couple of IDs, firstly date, and also SKU name. And what I've got is a whole bunch of information, things like marketing, things like weather data, things like percentage on sale, but I've even got my price statistics as well. And what I want to do is predict sales. So I'm going to use all of this information on the left-hand side to predict my sales. What I'm going to do now is to go into my Jupyter notebook, where I can connect to the MicroStrategy library and also to a DataRobot library. So what I'm firstly going to do is connect to that MicroStrategy cube and bring down that data into my Jupyter notebook. So we can see now the same data, date, and we can also see the price on the right-hand side. So what I'm now going to do is connect to DataRobot, and I'm going to initialize a modeling project. So firstly, I'm going to make an authenticated connection to DataRobot using my YAML file. And then I'm going to set up the project by creating a new project name with my data set. I'm also going to execute some of the advanced settings that are available through the API. Because everything is interoperable with what I do in the API and through the GUI, what I'm going to do is now transition back to the GUI where I'll be able to see that data that I've just started uploading. So we're going to go on to step 3, which is the exploratory data analysis. And we can see that I've already done some automatic date engineering on the date field. And you can also see my price statistics down the bottom there. You can also see my sales, and for this numeric information, I can see summary statistics like mean, median, and so on. But DataRobot really wants us to choose a variable that we want to predict, and that's what we call our target variable. So what we're going to do is enter our sales, and we're going to press this start button. When we press the start button, DataRobot automates the process that a data scientist would traditionally have to hand code. And it's going to get down to the bottom step, which is step 7, where it's going to automatically generate and train 30 to 40 different modeling approaches. So at this stage, what we're looking at now is the relationship between each of the variables and the target variable. But on the models page, what we're going to do here is to train those 30 to 40 different modelling approaches and rank them subject to RMSE, our model fit statistic. So on the right-hand side here, we can see a whole bunch of models that are being concurrently trained, and we're going to scale that up to different number of workers that we have available. What I'm going to do in the interest of time is move across to a finished project where this model competition has been trained. So again, ranking subject to RMSE, I can see the top line is the best blueprint for this particular modelling problem. So what I can do is go into that in a bit more detail and see exactly what this blueprint is doing for different types of data. I'm going to take all of that data pre-processing and feed it into a particular modelling approach. But if I didn't know what any of these were, I could link up to the model documentation. But what I'm most interested in now is the relationship between price and my sales in this particular model. So if I click on price actual, what I'll be able to see is on the x-axis is the price of the SKU, and the y-axis is the predicted sales at different price levels. As you can see, this looks like a very price elastic curve. You can also see this relationship for other variables, things like weather. What I want to do now is to make predictions at different price levels for each SKU to simulate what the sales would be at different price points. So what I'm going to do is go back into MicroStrategy, and I'm going to make a connection to the data set which I now want to score. Now this represents today's data or tomorrow's data for each SKU and the current price point for that actual SKU. But what we want to do is to blow this out to say what would be our predicted sales under different price levels. So again, what I'm going to do is to connect that MicroStrategy cube. I'm then going to have a look at that data set again, as I did before. And I'm going to blow that out for a different range of different price points. So I'm going to simulate this for 26% less than the base price and 26% more than the base price. I'm then going to connect again to my DataRobot project, and this particular project ID that's represented in the URL can then be shifted across into my Jupyter notebook, and I can connect to that particular project and bring back my recommended model. I'm then going to upload my scoring data set into that particular blueprint, and I'm going to score it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to navigate back to the DataRobot GUI, where we'll now be able to see that data set being uploaded. So there we go, we can see predict.csv, and on the right hand side, that's the task associated with the upload. What we're going to do next is to compute the predictions on this data set, and they will be available for us. So what we're going to do is go back and we're going to join those predictions back to the base data set. So what we can see now is at different discount levels, we can see the different predictions that the model has made, and this represents the predicted demand at different price points. So what we want to do now is to say, what is the price point which maximizes total revenue, i.e. sales times by price point? So what we can see in this graphic is on our x-axis is the change versus baseline. To the left is saying we're making the product cheap, and to the right we're saying that we're making the product more expensive. So on the left side we can see the total predicted sales at different price points, which goes down as the product gets more expensive. On the right hand side we can see the total revenue. And this is the part that we want to see, the part that maximizes total revenue. So what we're going to do is to generate this analysis for all of the SKUs to select the price point which maximizes the revenue. So if we loop through and do that for every SKU, what we can now see is one row per SKU. We can see on the right hand side is our recommended price and the change versus our baseline price. So what we're going to do now is to connect back to our MicroStrategy cube, and we're going to want to export that data set back. So we might do this on a daily basis or a weekly basis, so I'm going to replace my previous data set and load it up into this particular folder. So when I go back into MicroStrategy, what I'll be able to see now when I refresh this page is this new score data set. You can see that's timestamped for just a few seconds ago. And when we go into there, what we'll be able to see is one row per SKU. And on our right-hand side, we have our recommended price for our merchandiser.
Okay, so just a few points to pick out there. So before I hand back to Nick, it's really short video, right? In less than 8 minutes, you've seen how easy it was to build a whole bunch of machine learning models. What did I do? I effectively imported a data set and I pressed a massive start button. Then I picked the best model. That's really as easy as it should be able to be. So yeah, being able to go and find that most predictive model. You don't need to worry about what model is better than another. DataRobot will tell you that. You don't need to worry about which features will drive that target. Again, DataRobot will tell you that. So the other thing to highlight there is you'll see that we used a script. You don't have to use a script. The pure reason I use the script is just to enable me to completely automate that process. What Nick talked about earlier was the 0 clicks. Now, yes, from a training point of view, there's a number of clicks. But if you think about an operational process going forward, you can automate this script, which will then be able to update those prices in real time, as Nick described. So, Nick, with no further ado, back to you.
Right, thank you very much. Now, what you also saw in that video is one of the fundamental reasons for using MicroStrategy, and that is that Kane was using curated and cleansed data sets from MicroStrategy. So the MicroStrategy platform was doing the hard work of querying the source data from whichever data sources that happen to be. My slide here, I've got cubes, I've got relational databases, I've got Hadoop, I've got other data sources. MicroStrategy has over 200 different data sources that it can connect to, from SQL to NoSQL, from to many, many other sources. And that data can be blended and also, most importantly, locked down and governed within the platform. So the MicroStrategy platform will allow us to prepare data sets for our data scientists, will allow us to make sure that those data sets contain only clean data, because we know that most data scientists spend most of their time cleansing data. And quite frankly, if you've got a BI platform like MicroStrategy that can do that for you, and again, automate that process in a very similar way to the way Kane just described it, then why not use it? And so within that video, you saw Kane drop out to the MicroStrategy GUI, select a data set, have that data set pulled through into DataRobot, and then push the results back. Very much in the mode of this slide here. So MicroStrategy, far from being a mere visualization tool, although we do visualizations, we'll come to that in a sec, is also capable of supporting a wide variety of different business intelligence and analytical workloads, including data science. So the results are in. DataRobot's algorithms have helped select an optimized model delivering price recommendations on thousands of products. So now all Mary and her team have to do is to apply those optimizations to the products that they know will be important at the weekend. And this slide very much illustrates the workflow that we talked about. MicroStrategy is, through its semantic graph approach and its ability to blend data from different sources, is pushing trusted data into DataRobot. DataRobot is then pushing results, AI-rich data, back into MicroStrategy, and we're then going to use MicroStrategy through a series of intelligent applications to share that insight with other people. And as I said at the top of the presentation, of course, that can apply to any scenario where you might need to use machine learning or advanced analytics, from sales performance to cohort clustering to predicting the best insurance policy price to push out to your market and. Now, using MicroStrategy, Mary could have that new price optimization data visualized any way she wants to. And MicroStrategy dossiers, which are our word for dashboards, are designed to tell a story using infographics, compound grids, and other graphics. On the slide are some examples of the kinds of visualizations that Mary could have. There are beautiful dashboards that her team could build in MicroStrategy themselves using self-service tools. There's zero code here. And there's a wide range of compelling data visualization and infographics that really include things that appeal to retailers like compound grids and timelines, people that visualizations that work with marketing organizations and so on. You would expect me to be now showing you a dashboard rather than some screenshots of a dashboard. How about I demo a dashboard to you? Well, actually, the problem is Mary doesn't use dashboards. She actually spends all of her life in front of her company's website, deciding which products should go where, what's the optimal price, and so on. And this is a pattern that is reflected throughout the business world. Us in business intelligence like to think that people love our reports and dashboards and our visualizations. In fact, in many cases, those visualizations, those presentations are a distraction. Instead, the digital teams spend most of their day in front of the website. Their role is both aesthetic and business-oriented. They craft the customer experience. They craft the customer offer. And again, this is a retail scenario, but this would apply to many, many digital scenarios. So wouldn't it be great if that DataRobot insight, instead of them having to go to a dashboard, go to a report, wouldn't it be great if that insight could come to them? Well, it can. What we're looking at right now is a MicroStrategy hyperintelligence card. The card works within the browser experience of whoever is using that card, whichever application they're using. SAP, an ERP system, a merchandising system. In this case, Mary's grocery chain website. The card pops up whenever Mary moves her mouse pointer over a recognized product. We call it a business noun that drives that. In this case, the business noun is the name of the product, which has some DataRobot insight attached to it. And so the hyperintelligence card is scanning the web page that you're looking at all the time. And the card appears whenever it recognizes one of those products. On her site, it could be a competitor's site, even in an email. Mary doesn't even have to click on the product. This is zero-click analytics. Once the card pops up in front of her, in a second or less, Mary can see the insight that DataRobot has just generated, and also the next action, which is recommended by DataRobot, and then she can decide to choose her strategy for the product based on that recommendation. Here's Mary's task. She needs to optimize the customer offering whilst maintaining margins. DataRobot has done its part of the work and has generated price recommendations for thousands of products. The DataRobot results also imply a next action, raising the price by enough to improve revenues without hitting sales, or cutting the price to make the product more competitive. We are looking forward to a weekend of fine weather. Mary wants to focus on products that customers are likely to buy for picnics and barbecues. Mary will also be keeping an eye on her competitors to see how they're merchandising their sites. Let's take a look at salads to see what needs to be done. The problem is that traditional visualization tools are not great at this task. Mary has to jump away from her website and find the product in a dashboard to see the DataRobot recommendations. Then, to take action, she has to move to her merchandising system and find the same product all over again. Mary has just been given her first hyperintelligence card. She logs into the card through her browser. The card is personalized to the product she manages. Whenever it finds one of her products on her website or on a competitor's website, it underlines it. Hovering the mouse pointer over the product shows her the optimized price and the next action, according to DataRobot. Hyperintelligence is the answer. Mary can keep an eye on the website and spot DataRobot price recommendations all at the same time. The DataRobot advice comes in both numerical and textual forms, and we call this zero-click intelligence. There's also a link on the card which takes Mary to her merchandising system. This means that she can take action straight away without needing to find that product in a dashboard. Because the card is based on Mary's products, it allows her to work through her website in a way that she finds natural. Oh. Here's Mary's task. She needs to optimize the customer offering whilst maintaining margins. Here we go. I'm sorry about that little glitch there. We almost had the video again. So let's just analyze that card for a minute. We'll actually see building a card in a moment. So that card contained the insight from DataRobot, the current price, the optimized price, and other information as well. It contains information about the model, the dependencies within the model. In this case, we introduced some weather data. We also introduced some marketing data as well. And there is also a next action panel at the bottom, which clearly spells out the action that Mary should perform, with a link on the card as well. Now, again, this card can apply to so many different tasks. We'll talk about those tasks in a little while. And the HyperIntelligence card, as I said, it has a link through to the merchandising system. It's a context-sensitive link, so it can take Mary direct to the product that she needs to change, and she can then decide whether to go with the insight and change that product according to the DataRobot model. We believe she should, or take another decision, but that's part of the human factor. Let's take a look at how these cards are built. We're now going to build out a HyperIntelligence card for Mary. But first, let's take a look at the dataset which DataRobot has pushed into MicroStrategy. This contains the price elasticity optimizations which DataRobot computed for many, many products. We're going to make this data a little more intuitive by incorporating some product images. We'll use data blending to bring in some product images, in this case from Excel. But we could just as easily use a table in a data warehouse. Now, MicroStrategy has already decided that SKU and SKU name can be joined between the two tables. We just need to bring image source and these other SKU attributes together in a multi-form attribute so that it can be used on the card. This will all make sense in a couple of seconds. So now let's build the card. Finally, we're going to add that next action powered by DataRobot, which is a piece of text which is coming from the machine learning engine itself. And also a link off to the merchandising system so that Mary can change the price. Okay, that's pretty much finished. And we can save this into the MicroStrategy metadata. The final task is to certify this card so that it appears to all users who have access to it. So now when Mary clicks on the HyperIntelligence plugin in her browser and switches on the card, it will start to recognize her products and the HyperCard will appear. So what you saw there was a brief video showing how easy and simple it is to build a HyperIntelligence card. So what is HyperIntelligence? Well, it's a little bit less than a dashboard. It's a little bit more than a report. It pops up wherever the user needs to see it, in an email, in an ERP system, anything that is delivered through a web browser. In fact, it also operates on mobile devices as well. The point is that it's context sensitive. It understands the context of what the user is looking at, and it presents the card based on the business noun to the user. The information in the card is coming through from the MicroStrategy platform. So we benefit from all of that incredible query intelligence that MicroStrategy brings to bear. Over 200 different connectors, data caching, in-memory performance, and so on, which allows us to pop that card up in front of the user for many users all at the same time in concurrent usage in a second or less. Now, we've uncovered through the, MicroStrategy HyperIntelligence is unique to MicroStrategy. It's been in the product for just over a year, maybe 2 releases right now, and it's been our fastest seller. So it's been an enormous success for MicroStrategy and also an enormous success for MicroStrategy customers. And to be honest, every time we talk to a customer or prospective customer about HyperIntelligence, we are surprised by the suggestions that those organizations make for how they can benefit from our technology. Now, in this case, we're blending approaches. We're blending AI coming from DataRobot together with HyperIntelligence coming from MicroStrategy. And look, no dashboards in sight. There's no need for that type of business intelligence because we're pushing the information in front of the user, augmenting the applications that they happen to be using at the time. Imagine being able to augment SAP with intelligence from DataRobot, and imagine being able to do it in a card that you can build in 5 minutes or less. Okay, so Kane and I, why don't we talk about the benefits that we've uncovered today? Shall I hand over to you, Kane?
Yeah, let me kick off with the DataRobot side. So I know I talked about a few of our benefits very early on, but I just want to summarize with 2 points here. So firstly, think about expediting the value from machine learning in your business. This is really important. Most data science teams, have a shopping list of machine learning projects the length of their arm. So it's really important that you have a technology that allows you to scale and address that demand for machine learning in your business. We'll get on to that point in a minute. The second point I wanted to highlight was more about focusing from a business value point of view. So being able to underpin a lot of business decisions with machine learning, being able to actually successfully deploy those models into a production environment right across your businesses. So you might have use cases in supply chain, you might have some in marketing, you might have some in logistics, and of course that will vary for other businesses. But what you'll see is that the more models that you deploy and operationalize within the business, the more impact you will see on your bottom line. And we appreciate that everybody might not be from a retail sector here today. And hopefully you've been able to draw parallels with what Nick and I have presented today with a real problem that you might have in your business, which can benefit from predictive and indeed prescriptive insight. Whether you're from banking, telco, insurance, manufacturing, we can support you with automated machine learning. Over to you, Nick.
Great, thank you. Yeah. So there are so many things that we could talk about in terms of MicroStrategy. Obviously, there's only a certain amount of time, and we wanted to pick off that scenario and get two significant benefits of using MicroStrategy. First is that data governance, data federalization capability of MicroStrategy. Because MicroStrategy is a platform that can deliver single version of the truth, automated query generation across many, many hundreds of different data sources, it can be used to pull data together, curate that data, and then service whatever business intelligence or analytical workloads you have. MicroStrategy has connectors not just for DataRobot, but also for Power BI, for Click, for Tableau. So you can service the needs of those users and the visualization tools they use from this one platform which delivers single version of the truth against those multiple data sources. So accelerate your data science return on investment by providing clean, curated data, because we know that most data scientists spend most of their time tying up data. And then secondly is a point about adoption. We know that business intelligence, whether it's dashboards, visualizations, reports, tends to stall at technology. It tends to stall at users' ability to get their heads around how to log into that system, how to connect to the system, which report should I use under these circumstances, which dashboard should I use under those circumstances. And in the end, dashboards and visualizations tend to be largely adopted by the intelligentsia of the business intelligence world, the analysts. Now, we believe that everybody within an organization can benefit from intelligence, whether that's intelligence derived from a machine learning platform like DataRobot or anywhere else. And we believe that the best way to get that intelligence into users, into benefiting those users, is to put that intelligence in their eye line. And hyperintelligence does that. So drive deployment of insight with hyperintelligence and zero-click analytics. And this is what we do. We enable the AI enterprise with DataRobot and the intelligent enterprise from MicroStrategy. You can see how close our slogans are to each other, can't you? Compute the best price, change that price now, get your price right. And this is how we bring it together. We'd like to hand over to, in a moment, we'll talk about questions and surveys. So please opt in to stay informed about the latest offers, product updates, and more. MicroStrategy has a collection of out-of-the-box offers in terms of services, in terms of proof of concepts, and so on, that we can bring to bear. We'd love to hear. So, Kane, should we hang on for questions at this stage then?
Yeah, absolutely. I've just opened up the Q&A. I've got 9 questions so far. Some on the DataRobot side, some on the MicroStrategy side. So maybe if we just go through and answer some of those. We've got just shy of 10 minutes left.
Yes, I think so.
So cool. Do you want me to kick off with a couple of DataRobot ones?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. Cool. So let's just scanning through. So so there's a question for more about if there's no price variation, how can you optimize your price in the first place? Yes, this is a very valid point. However, that being said, what you're able to do is look across your SKU base to almost look at what your elasticity is across all SKUs and use that insight. and then effectively top it up with your specific SKU level insight. So I think it's worth saying that the way that we framed this particular problem is a very simple way to do it. If I was to do this in a more formal way, I might look at things like out-of-time validation. I might look at inter-SKU relationships. I might even set this up as a time series problem explicitly. So yeah, what you did see was definitely the simpler side of things, and there is scope for obviously improving that. I think there was a question around making an assumption that we're making decisions for each SKU independently. So yeah, again, absolutely, there's scope for evolving this, being able to understand not just predicting sales, but actually you might have a composite score that you want to try and predict instead. So it might not just be about sales, it might be partly a function of footfall. You want to drive traffic into your stores. They might not specifically purchase the SKU that you've marketed or tried to optimize the price on, but hopefully they'll buy some other SKUs, therefore generating revenue for that retailer. So yeah, definitely opportunity there. Nick, do you want to answer the MicroStrategy one?
Yeah, I'll take a couple of questions. So Mark Goldberg from Sinoverse. Oh, sorry, should have. Anyway, so yeah, so we had a question there, which was, can machine learning, can DataRobot AI be integrated into MicroStrategy dossiers? Well, the answer to that is absolutely yes. In the demo, we used MicroStrategy datasets or intelligent cubes, and those intelligent cubes can be used as a source for any down-the-line presentation mechanism that you want to use in MicroStrategy. We showed hypercards, but building a dossier based on that AI would look pretty much exactly the same. The editor is slightly different, but again, you've got a data source on the left, and you drag and drop objects onto the visualization within the dashboard on the right. We've got a question about fraud analysis, Kane. And
yeah, it's more about how intelligence might be able to integrate with a CRM system. And I think, Nick, when we've spoken before, right, you can surface, assuming you can join that entity together, you could surface a hyper intelligence card through, for example, Salesforce, because that is a browser-based system. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Sorry, I was just focusing on something else for a moment there. Yeah. So one of the other questions was, can hyperintelligence be presented in other systems? Could it integrate with other systems? There is, in fact, we are working on a hyperintelligence API, which would allow you to embed hyperintelligence in your own website. Right now, hyperintelligence comes as a plugin for Outlook, for for Chrome, and also Microsoft Edge. And as I mentioned in the presentation, it also works on Android and iOS devices. I think we're coming. What was that last question, Kane? I missed that last piece.
No, that's
Sorry.
fine. I'll take a couple of the other. There's a few more DataRobot ones that come through as well. So, how does DataRobot compare to Google AutoML? You're absolutely right. We do get this question a lot. There are other technologies out there. If you think about H2O.ai, for example. As I mentioned earlier, DataRobot were the category creator. We were the pioneer of automated machine learning. I think it's fair to say that Google AutoML is still in beta release. They haven't made it publicly available for everyone. So yeah, we do think that we have the most evolved product, but also in terms of funding, customer base, number of employees, so on. So yeah, I'm obviously somewhat biased, but I do think we have a superior product versus all of the market. There's another question about whether, Nick, you alluded to how MicroStrategy can support customers and potential customers on proof of concepts. absolutely, DataRobot can support the same thing. So a big part of my day-to-day job is to help potential customers realize the value from the DataRobot platform through a structured proof of concept. So if that is if that is something that's of interest to folks, then please feel free to reach out to myself.
Yeah, I'd just like to make one more point, which I think is going to cover off a few of the questions, which is really around, the use of hyperintelligence and where the data comes from. So actually, one of the reasons why we chose this scenario is that presenting price optimized data to retailers, to merchandisers, is something that got a lot of retailers interested and excited. So whether the price that you're presenting comes from DataRobot or whether it comes from another algorithm is really up to you. We know that a lot of organizations will want to go with loss leaders on certain products. So how you come about that recommendation is up to you. In the case of DataRobot, the recommendation is coming from history, from the science, if you like. We're guided by the science. Whereas you might need to present guidance to individuals based on another decision point, another algorithm, maybe another algorithm in DataRobots. That we have organizations that have used MicroStrategy in insurance around renewals. So as you have a customer or policyholder on the phone, you can then make a next best recommendation. Again, that recommendation could be from business intelligence, or it could be from machine learning.
Nick, I think we're almost on the hour, so shall we wrap up and say thanks?
Yeah, so thank you very much for coming along. We'd just like to make sure that you remember that there are, your feedback is important. So there is a survey at the end of the webcast. There will be a recording of the webcast made available, and please join us in your next event. And we have, and we have some email contacts there for further interaction. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.